from the building.
We went to everyone.
I don't know who's in the row behind that. Jeannie McNeil.
Sometimes when you apply for grants, they want an ordinance. Commissioners are behind you.
But it's just, we don't need an ordinance, all we need is a, no, this is just a motion.
Something's
What I'm saying,
going on with the
pavilion, we had that for both grants.
Everything's gone. It really is.
Can you get yourself?
Later on when they
You let me know when it's 7. I don't trust that clock.
it'll show up then. So you don't even think about it. It really doesn't impact you.
Well, you get trouble anyway.
I know. But there's no reason to ask for it.
Just like at home.
No, and that's what I'm saying. If it carried forward, but if it carried forward, then you'd have to go back. But if it didn't, and if it didn't, but no, that's what I'm saying. So you're now in February. So January worked out. You started out right in January. There's no need to go back a few months into the project.
Yeah, that's slow with that Mustang thing on it. That's what, slow.
Really? Are you gonna go?
What is this guy's name?
I'm gonna take you for a ride, we just chipped it out.
Randy's not here, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're okay. Randy's not gonna be here.
It's time.
Is that it?
Where is he gonna be sitting at next to,
Somewhere over here.
is he sitting next to you?
Who? Randy.
D, no, D. Oh, he'll be sitting next to you.
Randy's
You ready to go?
sitting next to me.
Yeah.
Who?
Like to call to order the February 2020 public meeting of the Board of Commissioners of Whitehall Township for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of thought for our troops overseas, especially those in harm's way. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Whitehall Township has an obligation to affirmatively further fair housing and review all land use applications in accordance with federal civil rights statutes. This includes taking meaningful actions that overcome patterns of segregation and foster inclusive communities free from barriers that restrict access to opportunity based on protected characteristics. The township, in its land use decisions, does not discriminate against persons based on race, color, natural origin, religion, sex, disability, or familial status, and reviews all land use applications in accordance with federal civil rights statutes. Public comments made on the basis of bias and stereotype concerning people within these protected classes will not be taken into consideration by the township in its deliberations. Next, we'll have the approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Secretary, please poll the board.
Commissioner Marks?
Yes.
Commissioner Warren?
Aye.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Sloniker? Aye. And President Ginder.
Yes.
Approval passes 5 ayes, 0 nays.
Voting on position of commissioner. A motion approving the appointment of Michael D. to the Whitehall Township Board of Commissioners, term ending December 31st, 2021. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
I'll second.
Any discussion from the board? None.
All I want to bring up is that all of the people that we interviewed did very fine. We're so glad that they took the time out to come before us and be interviewed and whatnot. And we got some really good answers, and it was one of these things that took us a long time to really decide on somebody. So that's all.
Any other comments? If none, Mr. Secretary, please poll the board.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Sloniker? Aye. Commissioner Warren?
Aye.
Commissioner Marks?
Yes.
Commissioner, President Ginder?
Yes.
Okay. Voting is 5 ayes, 0 nays.
You want to swear him in now?
Yeah.
swear
that I will support,
that I will support,
obey, and defend
obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth,
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth,
and that I will discharge with fidelity
and I will discharge with fidelity
the duties of my office as Township Commissioner.
the duties of my office as Township Commissioner. Thank you very much.
Mick, you may want to come
It's kind of real skinny over there. It's not like you're the sveltest guy. No. I know, because I have trouble.
Thanks for pointing that out.
Can't take Randy's seat?
No.
Since he's not here?
No.
Commissioner D, welcome to the board.
Thank you very
We're
much.
proud to have you here.
Thank you.
Fire Department promotions and 2019 video recap. Chief?
I'd like to thank you guys for allowing us to come before you. We have 3 new officers for this year. We have 2 brand new lieutenants. We have 1 lieutenant that's moving up to captain. Part of our promotion board is not just you're voted in by your peers any longer. You have to take a written test. You have to get a score of 70 or higher with that. Then from there you do a physical, you do a physical command operations, so you'll have to command in operations for that, and then you have to deal with a personnel problem at the same time. So we put them through all 3 of those, the average is put together, and then the assistant chiefs can pick from that list that gets put together. So these people that are actually being promoted aren't just picked by their buddy system any longer. So it's something we're very proud of, and I'd like to bring up our future, or our new officers. So if we could get firefighter Keith Builder, firefighter Greg Unger, sorry. I got Chad on my wing tonight. And Lieutenant Jack Meese.
I,
Jack Madden,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will uphold and support the Constitution,
that I will uphold and support the Constitution,
standard operating guidelines, and bylaws
standard operating guidelines and bylaws
of the Whitehall Bureau of Fire,
of the Whitehall Bureau of Fire,
the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
and of the United States of America,
and the United States of America,
and that I will fulfill the duties of my office
and will fulfill the duties of my office
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Now we have a pinning of our badges. Now we're going to present our video. We were very blessed to actually have Scott Nagy, who's a photographer for the fire department. When we're fighting fire, it's not something we actually turn around and take pictures of, so you don't really get to see the fire. But it was nice when Scott come out. He had a video production system. He has still pictures, and he put this nice video together for us, and we showed it at our banquet, but we wanted to show you guys what we do throughout the year. So this is
We
2019.
need to turn the lights down.
Is that it, Chief? At this moment, I'd like to take a minute to thank our volunteer men and women of this fire department for their professional service, for all the residents of this township. We thank all of you. Your dedication is overwhelming. Courtesy of the floor, Mr. Secretary.
Joni Tedesco. Name and address, please.
Really? Joni Tedesco, 424 4th Street, Whitehall. Good evening, Commissioners. Guess you probably get sick and tired of hearing me once in a while up here, but I'm speaking this evening because I, as many, have spoken in the past and feel as though it's quite hard to get a hold of anyone in our zoning office. While I understand it's a very busy office here in the township, I have called numerous times for different things, left messages, or called directly to Melissa Weir's extension and received no return phone calls. And I've addressed this with Mayor Harrickle about two and a half weeks or so ago, I guess it was. And he stated to me that he would send an email and have someone get back to me, and as of to date, I have received no return phone calls. In addition, my husband and I have spoken in person to Melissa down here at the Township Building regarding a neighbor whom we believe is operating a business out of his garage. And she asked me why I believe that this is happening, or why I believe this, and I told her he has heat, internet, and cable in the garage, and he also has 4 white vehicles with no company logo, names, numbers, nothing, no home improvement contractor numbers or anything. It consists of a white pickup truck with a yellow light on the top, 2 white vans, and a white enclosed truck, which represents to me to be kind of like a box truck type thing. And most recently, this past weekend, he had a huge, one of the biggest U-Haul trucks. And while I realize that no one owns the street, and with all the parking that's available to this man, he parks his vehicles all over the place. And last month, he and a neighbor had gotten into an argument over 2 of his vehicles that were parked across the street from him. And where am I here? I had to take my notes here. And I was told his neighbor's brother told the police officer, upon someone calling the police, his brother told the police officer is a business running out of the garage. I believe he has a business of cleaning out houses for a bank on foreclosures. I don't have proof to this, but I just, yesterday and today, I've seen this pickup truck loaded from here to high heaven and back again with all this junk in the back of the pickup truck. Melissa mentioned to me that she has a way of finding out if he is operating a business out of the garage. I don't know what that might be. But if I'm not mistaken, I think he would need a license in the township to be operating a business either out of his garage or his home. He also has people, more than likely employees of his, that come in their own vehicles, use these white vehicles of his, and leaves their vehicles parked on the street. They come at all different times of the day and the night. He currently has this pickup truck loaded, overflowing with junk, as I previously mentioned, which indicates to me more than likely he's got a business going on. Approximately 3 weeks ago, he dumped the enclosed truck, which I consider it to be a box truck. I don't know what the kind of truck they're called, and the pickup truck with wood. He dumped all this wood on a huge pile in his yard. He has a wood pellet stove, and most recently had gas put in the garage. And he told me he's going to put a wood burning stove in there so he can smoke me out. He also told me that he's going to get a handicap license plate or placard so that he can park in my husband's handicap spot in front of our house and leave his vehicle parked there. While other neighbors may not be bothered about this, we are, my husband and I, because we have to see all this. This man is just a very nasty man. He's about 35 years old or so, and he thinks that he can do just whatever he wants to do. He's not above the law, quote unquote. So I don't know if there is a way that anyone can find out if there is a business being operated out of this garage. I don't know why he needs 3 uses of heat in this garage. I mean, the wood pellet stove, the gas he just had installed, which is apparently not hooked up yet because there's no meter on the outside of the garage. And now he wants to get a wood burning stove. And I'm telling you what, that pile of wood is yay high. I have video and I have picture, still picture, of this pile of wood in the yard and video of them unloading from the 2 vehicles. So I don't want any rodents or anything. I mean, you know how they hide. I think this is going to be a problem. And he told me he's going to also pile this wood up along the side of his garage. So I don't know. I don't know if there's anything that can actually be done as far as finding out if he is operating a business out of his garage. But it is a nuisance with all these vehicles that he's got. He's got the whole corner block. How much room does this man need? Even today and yesterday, he had this big U-Haul truck parked over across the street. So it tends to make me believe that he is operating a business out of this garage. So anybody have anything to say about it?
Mayor?
It's been passed along to our codes enforcement people. They have visited the location. I will tell you, as you know, Joni, it takes an awful long time to make a determination as to whether somebody is running a business illegally. We continue to look at that, and at this point, I believe the assessment has been that there wasn't anything that we could act on at this point, Joan. So we are aware of the situation. That was passed along shortly after we spoke, and we'll continue to monitor that. I'll tell you that we have monitored places for months and months and months before we could, at the best, that we could find out that they were acting illegally, and then we deal with that. But at this point, there's no reason to presume that we have enough information to support the presumption that he's running a business out of there. And as to the wood and the 3 different types of heat that he has in there, that I don't believe is anything that constitutes a violation.
Not even with the big wood pile in the middle of his yard there?
Well, I guess I might want to pass that question along, but it's my belief that having wood stacked or stored even in a pile in your own yard is not a violation of our rules and regulations.
Well, I'll tell you what, we try to keep our neighborhood nice and clean, and since this gentleman moved in, it's been disastrous. It really has been.
I hear you, and I feel your concern. We have to act appropriately under our regulations, and we're doing that.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, you scared me. I'm
Excuse
sorry.
me. I want to go in defense of this woman. I've been to her house numerous times.
have
Oh,
Name your
oh, sorry. Lorianne Fano, 3107 North 3rd Street, Hockadakwa, Whitehall. In Joni's defense, if you're saying there's no business being run there, you're out of freaking minds, because you know what that guy is. I've been to Joni's house with those cars there. I could take a road trip to his house and go see all those cars from his business. I just sent Lee Rackus photos to her email. Do something about it. That guy's running a business.
Anyone else wish to comment on anything?
Courtesy.
For courtesy of the floor? If not, moving forward, public hearing voting on ordinances. Bill number 62, 2019, this is a second hearing. An ordinance for the acquisition by deed in lieu of condemnation of 2,381 square feet, .055 acres of property of William Dembakowitz, ETAL, having an address of 3630 Mechanicsville Road, Whitehall Township, Lehigh County, Pennsylvania, being tax parcel ID number 549-827-364-1021, for widening of Mechanicsville Road, State Route 1012, for subsequent conveyance to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Department of Transportation, and for completion of certain improvements on the immediately adjacent property of Dembakowitz ETAL, and for determination of any compensation payable in connection therewith. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Discussion by the board.
Very happy this is coming together. It's been many years in the works, and today, passing by, trail of students constantly walking across that. So it's going to improve safety, and hopefully it does something with that intersection as well. Thank you for. All right, thanks for your work, Frank.
Any other comments from the board? I have one comment. Where does the dollar amount for this, the $35,700, plug into this ordinance?
We did not include that in there. I sent you a copy of the appraisal report.
Must that dollar amount be in the ordinance? No? It doesn't have to show. Okay. That was my only comment. Comments from the public? There being no comments, Mr. Secretary, please poll the board.
Commissioner Warren?
Aye.
Commissioner Marks?
Yes.
Commissioner D?
Aye.
Commissioner Sloniker, aye. Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
And President Ginder.
Yes.
Bill passes 6 ayes, 0 nays.
Bill number 3, 2020. This is a first hearing. There will be no vote. An ordinance of Whitehall Township, Lehigh County, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, electing to amend its non-uniform pension plan administered by the Pennsylvania Municipal Retirement System pursuant to Article 4 of the Pennsylvania Municipal Retirement Law, agreeing to be bound by all provisions of the Pennsylvania Municipal Retirement Law as amended and as applicable to member municipalities. Bill number 4, 2020. An ordinance authorizing the acceptance of proposals for the construction of a new public safety building and structural alterations and appurtenances to existing facilities on the municipal building complex, to award contracts for general construction, electrical, plumbing, and HVAC work. Improvements to be for the improvement and betterment of service delivery by the Township of Whitehall. Bid 2020-01 in accordance with Section 3.20 of the Home Rule Charter, which requires authorization of acquisitions in excess of $25,000 by ordinance. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Discussion from the board.
I just want to say that this was a long time coming. It was a bold move on this board's part and the administration. I think it's going to really be beneficial to our community. And with that said.
Agreed. Any other comments from the board? There being none, comments from the public?
We have representatives from Dewey Engineering and KCBA that are prepared to note the recommendations and to give you any additional information that you'd like to have.
Start talking.
If you want.
Yes.
So, good evening. I'm Arif Fazil with Dewey Engineering, and first and foremost, every other time I've been up here, when I leave and tell you we're on budget, I've had trepidation, gone home with sleepless nights, but today I'm here to say we are well below budget, and I can say that because we have bids and they've been very successful. And I want to recognize and say that's the hard work of the leadership of the board, the administration, led by the mayor, obviously Jack, and the police chief also. And on behalf of the team, I just want to tell you thank you for letting us be part of that team. KCB Architects did a great job. They're here. And, we were very fortunate to be part of your team. So what Kim handed out is the bid tabulation. And as I said, the bids were very successful. The first page shows you the bids we received for general construction, and we received 7 competitive bids for general construction. If you recall, one of the things that was very important was to make sure we managed that budget, and we did that with many alternates for basically all of the different work that the board and the team felt were important to integrate as long as the budget could afford it. And so that's what we did here is we've identified all of those alternates for you. They were bid, and they're listed there all the way from number 1 through number 12. The good news is you can afford to accept all of them if you so choose. And they're also listed on the mechanical bid, which is the next page. We got multiple mechanical bids. Also, we got 6 of those. And then similarly for the electrical, on the electrical, we also got 7. And the last one was plumbing. We had 4 bids. So as I said, very competitive. We've listed and shown you all of the alternates there that I know everybody wanted. And as I said, you can afford at this point to accept them. We also have a summary sheet coming that's going to be passed around, and I can certainly cover any of these line items if you'd like, but I wanted to keep it brief. You have a busy agenda, and I know you guys have seen all this stuff before. So the summary sheet that Kim is handing out has all of these costs listed, but also very importantly, all of the, as we call them, soft costs also listed. We are also still carrying the same contingency we were carrying at our last budget estimate of close to $1 million. If you see almost on the last line item, third last line item there, of $908,000. So we're still carrying that contingency. And with that, as you can see from the bottom line number there, even with all of the alternates at this point, you are a little over $100,000 under budget, but you still also have that contingency, which the team is going to work very hard to manage that and keep that expenditure as low as possible. So those are all the costs. You can see even on the summary sheet, again, we've highlighted all of those alternates for you that the board wanted and felt was important to consider based on budget. So because of budget, you can afford all of them, and that's what's before you today. Is that?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
The other thing to remember in the ordinance, there is also 2 of the testing contracts to be awarded for construction and for
TAB?
HVAC
Thank you. Yep.
HVAC work. Plus, in the original agreement with Dewey, the contract was stipulated at a certain amount based upon a certain construction schedule. Since we will be going 6 months behind the The original agreement approved by the board authorizes $24,000 a month for each month beyond, so you'll see there's a number in there to sign for their contract for the increased cost, for them to extend the project beyond another half year. So those are the only two things to know.
Again, thank you for everybody's hard work on behalf of the whole team, so I think,
Thank
all
you.
right, thank you.
Any other comments from the floor? If not, Mr. Secretary, pull the board.
Can I just make an observation? I mean, we're asking you to vote on all of the bids and the noted information that Jack just gave to you with all of the alternatives that are listed on your sheets to be included in your motion here. Okay?
It's all in there. We're good to go? Okay, Mr. Secretary, please pull the board.
Commissioner Marks?
Yes.
Commissioner Sloniker? Aye. Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Warren?
Aye.
Commissioner D?
Aye.
President Ginder?
Yes.
The bill passes 6 ayes, 0 nays.
Bill number 5, 2020, an ordinance deferring the required installation of curbing and sidewalks along the North Church and Spring Street frontages of Lot 1, Lehigh County, PIN number 558-004-41862-1, and Lot 2, PIN number 558-010-369-482-1, for a distance of approximately 3,200 feet, 800 feet along Spring Street and 2,400 along North Church Street, as required in Chapter 1, Section 21-16 of the Codified Ordinances of Whitehall Township. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second? Can I second this, Attorney, as President of the Board?
Yeah.
We have a second. Any discussion from the board? Discussion from the floor. Mr. Secretary, please poll the board.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Ginder?
Yes.
Commissioner Sloniker? No. Commissioner Warren?
No.
Commissioner Marks?
No.
Commissioner D?
No.
Bill number 5 has 4 nays, 2 ayes. Does not pass.
I realize that. Bill number 6, 2020, an ordinance authorizing the acceptance of a proposal for 39-month lease of 2 Canon copiers for the Whitehall Township Municipal Building, in accordance with Section 3.2 in the Home Rule Charter, which requires authorization of acquisitions in excess of $25,000 by ordinance. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Comments from the board? There being none, comments from the floor. Mr. Secretary, please poll the board.
Commissioner Marks?
Yes.
Commissioner Sloniker? Aye. Commissioner D?
Aye.
Commissioner Warren?
Aye.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
President Ginder?
Yes.
Bill passes 6 ayes, 0 nays.
Bill number 7, 2020, an ordinance deferring the required installation of curbing along the Columbia Street frontage of 3585 South Church Street for a distance of approximately 650 feet as required in Chapter 1, Section 21-16 of the Codified Ordinances of Whitehall Township. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Discussion from the board.
Is that you, Joe?
Yeah, Joe. Discussion from the board, discussion from the floor, comments? There being none, Mr. Secretary, please poll the board.
Commissioner Sloniker? Aye. Commissioner Marks?
No.
Commissioner D?
I'm gonna abstain.
Commissioner Warren,
Aye.
Commissioner Fisher,
Aye.
and President Ginder.
Yes.
Okay. Motion passes 4 ayes, 1 nay, and 1 abstention.
Bill number 8, 2020, an ordinance deferring the required installation of curbing along the South Church Street frontage of 3585 South Church Street for a distance of approximately 1,850 feet as required in Chapter 21, Section 21-16 of the Codified Ordinances of Whitehall Township. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Discussion from the board. There being none, discussion from the floor, comments from the floor?
Hi, good evening. Michael Jagner with Bowler Engineering on behalf of the applicant. Just as a caveat to the deferral we're requesting, the applicant will work with your engineer in regards to the stormwater improvements that we discussed previously in front of this board.
Any other comments from the floor? There being none, Mr. Secretary, please pull the board.
Commissioner Sloniker, aye. Commissioner Marks?
Yes.
Commissioner D?
Yes.
Commissioner Warren?
Aye.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
And President Ginder.
Yes.
Bill passes 6 ayes, 0 nays.
Bill number 9, 2020, an ordinance deferring the required installation of sidewalks along the South Church Street frontage of 3585 South Church Street for a distance of approximately 1,690 feet as required in Chapter 21, Section 21-16 of the Codified Ordinances of Whitehall Township. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
I'll second.
Who gets it?
Sloniger.
I'll get it.
Discussion by the board. Comments from the board. There being none, comments from the public.
Good evening, Michael Jagner with Bowler Engineering again on behalf of the applicant. The applicant would just like to, I'd like to read a statement just for the record in regards to this request. The applicant is not opposed to installing sidewalk along the property frontage of Church Street and is therefore requesting a deferral, not a waiver, until such time that a proper and safe sidewalk network is established north of the site in conjunction with the surrounding properties, thus providing a safe pedestrian path. Installing the sidewalk at this time promotes pedestrian traffic, but without sidewalk network in place, and this will in turn place pedestrians in an enhanced danger when entering and exiting the sidewalk. Sidewalk installation at intermittent locations creates a false sense of safety and will result in the need for pedestrians to enter and exit sidewalk locations via the edge of street cartways. While not installing sidewalk at this time and utilizing the township deferral option, the lack of sidewalk will alert and inform pedestrians that the property frontage does not provide for a proper pedestrian path. We ask you to consider that as part of the deferral request.
Any other comments from the floor? There being none, Mr. Secretary, please pull the board.
Commissioner Warren?
Nay.
Commissioner Sloniker? Nay. Commissioner Fisher?
Nay.
Commissioner D?
Nay.
Commissioner Marks?
Nay.
President Ginder?
No.
Bill is 6 nays, 0 ayes.
Public hearing and voting on resolutions. Resolution number 3096. A resolution conditionally approving the land development plan of 3614 Lehigh Street, proposed 5,000 square foot warehouse located at 3614 Lehigh Street, Lehigh County, Pennsylvania. Index number 1944-19. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
I'll second.
Discussion from the board.
Frank, can you give 1-minute description of the regulated flood zone, the 100-year or 1% flood zone, and how it affects the property, and explain whether or not we have a report from the developer, whether or not they're going to impact flooding up gradient.
Just to give you a brief overview, we were working with their engineer, trying to get some calculations. They're not quite finished with them yet. I wasn't in the office today. I was out sick, but I did talk to Lisa Hiley, who is our guru in charge of all the stormwater and flood issues. One of the reasons that we're very particular about the flood issues is that we tend to be a magnet for audits from FEMA. So we're very, very careful on how we administer projects in the floodplain. And at the board's indulgence, I can read off what she gave to me in regard to what she was looking for. It may be a little bit technical, but we're gonna go for it. And she writes, for the HECRAS, which is a program we use to determine the characteristics of the floodplain, I will be looking to verify existing geometry conditions as well as the proposed geometry conditions. If the existing and proposed geometry conditions are correct, then I look at the output of the analysis. Specifically, I will look at the pre-development and post-development velocities for the 100-year water surface elevation and the flow width. I check the velocity to ensure erosion will not occur, which is a concern on this project since they are using gravel and soil mixture for traffic. I will also look at the water surface elevation and the floodplain width to ensure that they are not altering the aerial extent of the floodplain. The most important part of creating the HECRAS is to make certain that any change in geometry is accounted for in the post-development condition. Boiling that down, we're putting some fill in, we're putting a building in. We have to make certain that that volume that area takes up, that they're altering, doesn't change the flow characteristics of the stream bed. That's what it is in a nutshell. I wanted to get the technical information out, but boiling it down, that's what it means. So we're still working on it. I know they were working on it again today, trying to get it to, I guess, work through a program, but we haven't seen that yet.
The other question is, I think, Phil, you raised it in the workshop, was what kind of trucks are going to go in here? Can they do a U-turn and back into that dock, or is this using Lehigh Street as a?
The applicant's here tonight to answer those questions, so we'll let them move forward with them. If you want to talk about those other issues.
And is that RSA or PennDOT say, I guess, is the question.
Depends on permit.
Name and address, please.
Name and address.
Yeah, my name's Art Swallow. My company prepared the plans for Ken Snyder for 3614 Lehigh. Just to address the concern with the regulatory floodplain, we are adhering to the township regulations as far as minimizing any elevation change in the regulatory flood elevation. We've kept it around 6 inches where we intend to put the building. We took extreme care in positioning the building so that we wouldn't interfere with the floodway of the regulatory flood hazard zone, which is still part of the township ordinance under federal guidelines. As far as velocities go, no measurable increase in velocity was detected, and there is no standard for increase in velocity. We had supplied the information to Keystone's office, which we felt adequately addressed velocity, displacement, regulatory flood elevation. As I stated earlier, we are only 6 inches. We're allowed a foot by federal regulation, so we're well within regulatory for here. We have agreed in good faith to work through the HEC-RAS. It's an acronym for a very sophisticated stormwater program that deals primarily with large watersheds contributing to stream flow. We already have the FEMA study. We've chosen to go with that. So it's a matter of just backing in the calculation and converting the FEMA calculations to an entirely different program, which we're working on. It just, with the time allowed, we weren't able to do it, by 5 o'clock today. So, we will continue and model that storm the way Frank's office would like us to. And again, I'm satisfied that, the plans as designed, as presented, as recommended for approval by the Planning Commission withstand township review and regulation. As far as the entry, truck usage, parking, this is a 5,000 square foot building that we've determined is a warehouse for the storage of possibly lawnmowers and snow blowers. In the future is our hope to build the building and sell it to a local businessman. It's not ideal for access with tractor trailers, but we're talking about a 5,000 square foot building here. We're not talking Amazon, Wayfair, Duke, Prologis, Liberty Property Trust. This is a very small local building. The site lends itself. It has correct zoning. We feel it won't be a big impact. With only 5,000 square feet, it doesn't take a lot of tractor trailers to fill up something like that. So the most efficient way to access the property, and we've created a loading dock for that purpose, is for a semi-rig to back in. You never know what you're going to get, if you're going to get a 40, a 53, a 60, but that would be the most efficient, and I don't think that would occur that often. Single unit trucks definitely have free access and easy turning movements within the site.
I guess the only other comment I would have is it's not the concern of increased velocity of the creek, it's the reduction where it's backing up gradient. And I guess the 6 inches, I'd be curious is how that impacts the house is at the edge of the regulated floodplain there. We don't want to make things worse. I guess that's.
And neither do we. It's something that I particularly did not take lightly. I've been working on this project for a few years. We've modeled the storms. We've looked at the PennDOT calculations for the bridge calculations. We've looked at Lehigh Valley Planning Commission for the Act 167, as well as the FEMA regulations. So we've blended several different studies of that stream, and I'm very satisfied what we're doing would not be detrimental to the neighbors. And we're really talking about a flood hazard that would 1% chance of happening in a year. And yes, I've seen that bridge flood in a very unusual, very quick downpour that just so happened to be a few days after another very, very hard downpour. So I am aware of it, but we've raised the building sufficiently. It'll be concrete with no access to the basement, 1.5 feet above that regulated flood elevation. So again, I think we've done our job in meeting the township regulations for this. And we'll continue to address all the conditions in the recommendation for approval.
Any other questions? Are you satisfied?
I'm done with my questions.
Any other questions from the board? I have one. This asphalt driving ramp in the rear of the building, how would you access that?
Well, it was more of a secondary access, Mr. Ginder. As you can appreciate, if we're standing on the ground, the first floor of the building is going to be up here. Mm-hmm. So any access to the rear, emergency or otherwise, would be very difficult. I don't think the intent is for that ramp to be a primary access. It's another way to get supplies in or out in an emergency, if
How would you
something
get-
like that. It's not intended to be a
How would you
primary.
get back there
You drive on the gravel.
on the gravel?
Again, it's not, we don't intend to direct traffic back there, that we have a sufficient loading dock. And again, it's relatively small building.
I've seen tractor trailers come in and out of 5,000 square foot buildings, 3 and 4 and 5 a day. Depends what product they're moving.
Well,
in.
again, yeah, this
Depends.
particular one I have in mind, I don't expect to see that kind of activity.
But you stated earlier, we think it's gonna be just for storage for lawnmowers and whatnot. Yet, the thing is, you can't go ahead and say, well, that's who we're gonna sell it to, only people that are gonna have that kind of job. Go ahead, Mr. Snyder, get up and tell your name and address.
Ken Snyder, I'm a partner in the partnership group. I think it's important to get a little bit of history of how we got here and why I'm here tonight. Frank and I talked earlier on the phone about the possibility of being pulled off the agenda. We were pulled off, I think, 2 times previously, if not 1. So when the first time we were pulled off the agenda, there was legitimate concerns that Frank had, and we scheduled a meeting with Frank, and we reviewed all the things that he wanted to see in the plan. So the plan that was presented to you was a plan based on conversations that occurred between Frank Clark and our firm, dealing with the access, the front entry load, the thing in the back, the gravel, was zoning approved, all that stuff was addressed. Rather than not be on the agenda tonight, your next meeting is, I think, the 1st and the 7th of March, or the 8th of March. I'm not in town for that meeting, so what I requested was to come in and talk to you tonight, because I know at your workshop, you do not have to grant me the privilege of speaking at a workshop. So I would be here for your workshop meeting, but I would not be here for the regular meeting. That's why I asked to do this tonight. I also understand that this engineering question with the flood and all the other good stuff has to deal with the fact of approximately 6 inches or half a foot or whatever it is of fill in the area, and it's a minor effect on the overall cause, and we're talking about the 2 engineering processes. I prefer to leave that to the 2 gentlemen to figure that out, because I'm not an engineer. I do know that when we did it, I had the opportunity to do a larger building that was there, and I elected not to do that. The person who I'm talking to asked if I would make the building larger than what was approved for zoning, and I said I would not go back and do it because we had an arrangement of the zoning that it would be a 5,000 square foot and not a 6,000 or 7,000, so I refused to do that. And if that person doesn't want to buy it because of that, so be it, because the agreement was a 5,000 square foot, and I'm honoring that arrangement. As far as the site itself, we all know that that was used originally as a gravel site for parking for when the restaurant used to be there, and that was there. PennDOT did their bridge. They used that for that site as well. So we're not doing anything that's detriment to the area as far as what impact on the stream or anything to that effect. So based on the answers I was given today, that what he's looking for in the HEX arrangement, if that's what it's called, and what he's looking for on the FEMA arrangement, to put the 2 things together to come up with the right thing takes time, and that's what they're trying to do. So that's why I'm saying that that is just a matter of a technicality on the engineering. I've been told it does not have a negative effect, and it does meet the criteria that was there. Does that answer your question?
No, and it doesn't. The reason being, I see 3 problems here.
Go ahead.
One is you can't guarantee that there's not gonna be tractor trailers having to back in or out on Lehigh Street. Causes a big problem, because I know where it's at. The other part here is to gain access to that back there, you're saying, well, you know, we put in gravel. How long before that gravel either washes away from the stream, which we just, 2 times he brought up that, oh yeah, it did flood, you know. Those kind of things don't give me any confidence that this is gonna work out.
So let's talk about the gravel. I went to zoning and I went through that and explained everything. They gave me the variance to do it. It was cut and dry. The variance was granted. And maybe you're not approving it or don't like it, but I got the variance. And I explained to them exactly what we were gonna do with the full intent. And they said they're fine. So they had the option of saying no, but they didn't. And as far as backing in and out, I'll be the first to tell you there's no guarantees, because where my office is, and you know where the tire store is, trucks back in and out of there all the time.
Absolutely.
And you know what? You and I can drive around this township and find numerous places where they are or are not. There is no guarantee. I could tell you this, that I have provided sufficient amount of place for a tractor trailer to pull in and back around. That's what I did, as per your regulations that you've asked me to do. So I can't control.
But Mr. Snyder.
Yes.
So you're telling me that, yeah, we have areas in the township that this occurs. So you're saying, well, let's add another one. How many more do we add before we have a bigger problem just because, well, this is only one? What happens when there's 15 places where they're backing out in the traffic?
Commissioner Sloniker, my plan addresses your concern that you have, and I provided what you asked for.
You
Simple.
provided an answer, and I don't think it's satisfactory for me. That's
Well, unless I'm missing something, then the engineer has to tell me where I'm not providing, because I did provide what you asked for,
and also
as per the regulation.
And also tonight, he needs more time to work on his numbers. And the way it appears is your fellow there has to work on numbers too.
I'm not asking you to give me an approval tonight by any stretch of the imagination.
That's what we're here to vote on, though.
No, wait. I'm asking you to, I've asked to come tonight to talk to you while you're here to answer your questions. I have no problem with removing it from the agenda and having Mr. Clark and Mr. Swallow review the issue. If I was in town next month, I wouldn't even be here tonight. I would wait till the following week. But the problem is there's no way for me to put that together.
And I do take objection to you saying that at our workshop, we don't let people present things to us. It just never happens. It never happens. We always let people talk. Saying something like that makes it sort of like, well, the only people that talk are
Mr. Sloniker, I didn't say that. I said you do not have to grant me the right is what I said.
And again, we've never gone ahead and say no. So you automatically said, well, they're gonna say no. That isn't the case.
I have, based on my travel schedule, I had to make a decision as to whether I came here tonight or wait till the day before and find out the answer was no. And I talked over to Frank and I said, look, I'm just trying to facilitate by answering your questions. That's all I'm trying to do. No more, no less. And when you look at the plan itself, it'd be different if I came here and put our own plan together and said, here it is, so be it. But that's not what I did. I sat down and met in the man's office and reviewed everything he wanted to be done, and that's what we did. Now, I agree that there's an engineering question. Hands down, there's an engineering question. Let the engineers to figure it out. It'd be two doctors, I said, let the doctors figure it out. I don't do that. That's what I'm paying this guy to do, and that's what he's supposed to do. So let them figure it out. And if it ends up being a velocity problem that we're all talking about, they don't have to deal with that issue. That's all I'm saying. And that's why I'm here tonight, just to give you, here's where I'm at. I can't change my travel plans. I just can't. If I could, I would.
And on the issue of the travel plans, I mean, if you can't make the March meeting, is there any reason we can't push this back to April?
If I have to, I can. I have contract arrangements that had to be done, and on the same token, Lee asked me to sign an extension that said it would be taken care of by March. Some of these things were done in a timely manner when I got it or didn't get it, and I understand everybody's busy, but I've been working on this since October, and I really feel at this particular point that we can meet the arrangements. I don't want to be in a situation where you have your formal meeting on March, and then you turn around and there's questions, and I'm not here to answer the questions. That's why I come in tonight and said, are there questions? And Frank told me that at the workshop session there was questions, and I just thought the easiest way to solve that problem is to show up and ask me the questions, and I'll be here happy to answer them. And if I don't know the answer, I'll tell you I don't know. Does that make sense?
It does. I mean, this site has sat vacant for
A long time.
A long time.
Yes.
And maybe we need more information, more deciding. Maybe the numbers need to be crunched. So
On the
maybe
engineering side?
Yeah.
Oh, I agree. Basically,
maybe an extra month or two would be helpful.
what I don't know is if whether or not Swallow's organization will be able to get the numbers done satisfactory by the time we hit the next meeting. If he can't, I will tell you that if he can't have the information to your engineer by that date. I will pull it off the agenda and move it to April. But I think I only found out about this on Friday between you and me in a conversation. Today is Monday, and I think we were trying to solve the problem yet Friday afternoon. So we're all like, you know, I'm not throwing anybody under the bus, but honestly, I only found out about this thing Friday morning.
Frank, if Mr. Swallow can get his part done, are you gonna be able to get your part done by next month's meeting?
I expect so. I mean, we're down to working on some final details with the HACRAS study, and, that's gonna take probably another week or so until they get through with their calcs, I would guess. And then until, our reviewer looks at everything, I would expect between now and next month, we should have that pretty well worked
Well,
out.
Mr. Schneider, why don't we do this? Why don't we retract our motion? Let the engineers do what engineers do.
Yes,
If they meet the deadline by next month's meeting,
yes.
there we are.
I'm perfectly fine, and I'm also here to answer any questions in the event that I'm not here and get those out of the way. Are there any other questions that the commissioners have?
I just had one. The
Go ahead.
sewer easement, I know you're not infringing on it, but you're close to it.
Yes,
You don't have any concerns on that whatsoever?
no.
The only concern that Mr. Harleman apprised me of was he was worried about washout onto the easement. You don't predict or assume that there will be any problems with things washing onto the easement?
No.
And the only reason why he's concerned about that is, you know, our inflow problems and what we've been dealing with, you know,
Yes.
consistently.
I'm aware of that.
Okay. If you can assure me of that, I'm fine.
I'm good.
Good.
Would the board, like Ken to come to the workshop meeting in March, just in case there's any?
If the numbers are complete, if the,
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
That way, if there's any more questions you have about the site, you can talk to him then, because he won't be here.
I think that's fair if you come to the
I'm
workshop
fine.
and.
And I didn't mean to offend anybody by saying that you would not hear me at the workshop session, but in other townships I travel, it's a hard, fast rule that you don't show up and you're not allowed to say anything at certain times. And you have been liberal with me in the past to do that, but I can't make that assumption
Mr.
because of where I'm
Snyder,
at, that's all.
We're like that with everybody that comes. All we want is people to say what kind of concerns they have, in this case, present what you have. I don't recall ever being on this board where we said, no, you shut up because we're having our own meeting. It never happened.
I understand.
So,
I understand.
to me, it was offensive.
Sorry, I apologize.
I have one question. With the tractor trailers, do you intend for them to drive into this lot and turn around on the lot?
That's what I've been told, yes. And I'll have that clarified for you when we get together.
Because it doesn't seem like there's enough room to swing a tractor around on this lot,
It's not ideal, it's doable.
especially if you hit snow or something.
Are we talking 40s or 55s?
Let's-
I mean, I'm
let's-
just,
let's-
I'm not being smart when I say
Let's-
that. I
Let's
mean,
take the
it's-
worst-case scenario, 55. I mean, God knows what you get from the freight company. You take it when you get it.
Again, I understand, but at the zoning meeting, it was addressed and it was accepted. So I understand your concerns, but I addressed those answers there and they were fine.
Well,
So-
you also still have to get an HOP too.
So that's another question, because I have an HOP in my file, but the question is the HOP applied to the office building or mine, because it doesn't specifically address if it's there or not. So when the state did their shtick, they put an entrance in automatically of where it was previously, because there was one there, and when they came in, widened the road, did everything, they reinstalled the access automatically the way it is, and I have an HOP in my file.
Well, the curb cut's there, you have an HOP, but it doesn't really apply to this.
I understand, so what would happen is I'd have to apply and get the HOP back and forth, and we're waiting for an answer, what's gonna happen on that.
Well, I mean, you'll probably get more pushback from the state than you will from this board, because, you know, that's a state route, so I don't know where they're gonna
understand.
deal with that.
I understand.
Okay, I have one question.
Go ahead.
So, at the workshop meeting, I was wondering about emergency vehicle access. So, the way I understand it is that the parking lot, we assume in a worst-case scenario, is going to be flooded. So, are we able to have a situation, or is it permissible that we're assuming a site's going to be flooded, that emergency vehicles will be able to get through it or have to go through it? What's the township ordinance on that, or what are the thoughts on that?
So, let's use the term flooded, okay? If I'm wrong, please tell me. My understanding that the flood level on this location is taller than me standing underneath the underpass. Am I correct? Okay, so if I stand in the underpass, folks, where we all know where the underpass is, that water has to go up above my head to be considered the flood arrangement based on the floodplain. Now, I have never seen that, and I was born and raised and fished in that creek, okay? So I will admit that it backs over from time to time. But, you know, you can drive vehicles through there, and the police close it down based on the benefit of the ordinary person. But you should not have a problem coming through there with a fire engine or anything to that effect.
So, I mean, a fire engine can get through and an ambulance can get through,
I've never seen it flooded to the point that it cannot.
but do we want to continue with that? Like, do we want to, like, risk the emergency vehicles having to go through there?
I don't know the answer to that question, except that I have met all of the requirements in your ordinance that you're asking me for. I've met those requirements. I've gone to the zoning, I've done that. I've got their approval, I've done that. They could have said to me, no, we don't want to have you have a building built in there. I've done that. So I don't know what else to do. I could sit here and what if this whole project to death, okay? I mean, we really can, but I don't know what else to do.
Can I answer?
Sure.
Mr. Fisher? The constriction is that bridge.
Yes.
Okay, you know that, it backs into your park, and it cascades over that bridge. Whether Ken Snyder builds this building or not, that water's gonna cascade over that bridge. That, his building, his construction is not what's affecting that flood. That's the real condition. It's not a matter of him putting a building in and now all of a sudden the water backs up past the park and further. So it is an existing condition. It's not the greatest. It only happens every now and then. But emergency vehicles, you know, would have to traverse that dam breast, if you will, in any case.
Does that answer your question?
The best that I can.
Anything
Any other
else?
questions from the board? Frank, you know what to do. I guess we need these two motions pulled back. Need to be put on the March.
Okay, and then the workshop is the first or the second?
I do not have a calendar here.
It's the first Monday of the month, is that correct?
Second and the ninth.
Second and the ninth. And what time does your workshop start, may I ask?
7.
7, okay. Thank you, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to give you an update of what's going on. Have a nice night.
Yes, Mario.
Mario Spinal, 8351 Sumner Avenue. My question, I guess, is for Frank Clark.
Yes, sir.
How far away is this warehouse from Copley Creek?
Probably from the top of bank,
How much?
from the top of bank, about 60 feet.
Isn't there a state law about building close to a stream?
That's all FEMA laws. That's all federal laws that come into
A
that.
federal law?
Yeah, but it's also, you've got 50 feet that you have to stay away from the top of bank. That's by rule. I mean, this is a little bit
Well,
more than that.
If this building is on a floodplain, there must be exceptions to defer the floodplain then? I mean, is it elevation or?
Right, if you want to build in that floodplain area, the flood fringe, you have to prove that you're not causing any harm. And that's what we're going through the process now. with the contract.
Or what is it, a 100-year or a 500-year
Well, they
floodplain?
regulate the 100-year. They also determine what it looks like in the 500, but the 100-year is the one that they base everything on.
There are some floodplains that happen every 100 years, but lately it seems they're happening every 10 years with climate change and whatever. So, I mean, if you get all the permits and everything's fine, okay. But I just wonder if that ever got flooded. That area down there on Lehigh Street, close to 50 feet, isn't far from Copley Creek.
No, but I get it. That's the regulations we're faced to using, and they have to comply with those
So in other words, there are exceptions to floodplain. You couldn't build on some floodplain.
You can, but you have to make provisions.
Okay.
To make it safe.
Any other comments?
I would like to withdraw this motion at this time.
You want to draw your second?
I'd like to withdraw the second at this time.
That's all we need? Yep. Good to go. Moving on, resolution number 3097, a resolution approving the cost of living adjustment for eligible recipients of the police pension fund. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
I'll second it.
Questions from the board? Questions from the public? There being none, Mr. Secretary, please poll the board.
Commissioner Marks?
Yes.
Commissioner Warren?
Aye.
Commissioner D?
Aye.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Sloniker? Aye. President, you know your name, Ginder?
Yes.
Okay. Resolution passes 6 ayes, 0 nays.
Resolution number 3098, a resolution conditionally approving the minor subdivision lot line adjustment plan of HPL Realty LP located at North Church Street, Lehigh County, Pennsylvania, index number 1953-19. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion by the board.
Yeah, I just have why is there no address attached to this?
You have to say it into the microphone, please.
Name and address.
Steve Patty, applicant's engineer. There are no addresses for either of those sites.
We need your address.
Oh, okay.
Just
609 Hamilton Street, Allentown. What we proposed as part of this lot line adjustment are addresses. So the addresses are on the plan. Zoning officer approves the addresses. Right now, they're just property IDs.
Okay.
Mr. Solicitor, have you decided about rec fees on this?
There's no structure on the property now.
We're not creating any new lots, so to speak. So at that point, there shouldn't be a rec fee. Just double checking, thanks. No, I know the feeling, that's fine. Any other comments from the board? Comments from the floor? There being none, Mr. Secretary, please poll the board.
Commissioner Marks?
Yes.
Commissioner Warren?
Aye.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Sloniker? Aye. Commissioner Wow, I am going back. D?
Aye.
And President Ginder?
Yes.
Resolution passes 6 ayes, 0 nays.
Mr. President, I would just like to address the board regarding the deferral matter that was denied earlier this evening regarding North Church and Spring Street. Probably should have spoke up, but it is an extreme hardship to provide curb and sidewalk and roadway improvements along the North Church frontage and Spring Street. Spring Street, it's an impossibility because of it's basically a rock outcrop. There's no room to do any of these improvements. If these improvements are actually required for one house on one lot 2 times, there will be no home construction here. But there is no subdivision. We are not increasing lots. Basically, we want to put a home at the top of the hill. And one home for the parents and another home for the daughter. But if this immense frontage has to be approved, the project as we propose cannot occur. That doesn't mean there wouldn't be some alternate, but I know I'm just asking for a reconsideration.
But that's not here right now in front of us, so.
If it passed, if the ship sailed, then it sailed.
Well, I'm just saying, right now, this is not what we had in this particular
I understand.
resolution.
I'm up here and I thought if I could interject on this matter, I will. And if there's no appeal, then there's no appeal.
There's nothing to appeal yet. Again, I'm a little confused because nowhere did we say, oh, this will be done, that'll be, all we did right now is approve the.
It was on earlier in the
But
agenda.
the-
It was out-
what happened was
It's out of order.
The curb and
Oh, that
sidewalk
vote before.
deferral,
I'm
yeah,
just
I'm sorry.
looking at this
Earlier in the evening, the curb and sidewalk deferral was brought up, and it was denied. I probably should have made and explained what was proposed.
And earlier, the one bill was to exclude curbing. And that was voted, that yes, they could defer the curbing.
No, no.
No, it was
No, we
combined.
voted
This
to
is
put
North
it
and
in.
Spring. It was 2-4.
Which, okay, I'm sorry, I have to go back.
Bill number,
5/20/20.
521,
5/20/20.
No, 5-2020.
2020. Okay, that's the one that, yes, we did vote no for that, yes. And yes, you should have gotten up at that time and explained it. I mean, we're way past that. Again, I was thinking of something else, so. But later on, when we got into what the other gentlemen were here, we gave them the right to defer curbing, but we didn't forgive them to go ahead and not have
I
sidewalks. Or come back with something similar that they could present to us.
I understand.
Okay, so,
Solicitor Gross, do you have anything to add to any of this?
Just gonna say that matter was already voted on,
Yeah.
doesn't prevent them from
Coming back.
coming back,
Make it,
making another,
He would have to come back and kind of appeal what was done there.
make a new request. I mean, the other ones were actually second requests.
thank you.
sorry for my confusion.
No.
The other one was
Thank you.
thousands of feet, so.
Okay, moving on. Resolution number 3099. A resolution approving the retirement and the commencement of monthly pension benefits to Police Officer Michael Arnold. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
I'll second.
Comments from the board? Comments from the public? There being none, Mr. Secretary, please poll the board.
Commissioner Fisher.
Aye.
Commissioner Marks.
Yes.
Commissioner D.
Aye.
Commissioner Warren.
Aye.
Commissioner Sloniker, aye. President Ginder.
Yes.
Resolution passes 6 ayes, 0 nays.
Resolution number 3100, 3100. A resolution approving the retirement and the commencement of monthly pension benefits to Police Officer Paul Davis. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Comments from the board?
Chief Marks, if you can convey to these two gentlemen how grateful we are for their service and good luck in retirement. Absolutely. Alrighty.
Any other comments from the board? Comments from the public? There being none, Mr. Secretary, please poll the board.
Commissioner Marks.
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher.
Aye.
Commissioner Sloniker, aye. Commissioner Warren.
Aye.
Commissioner D.
Aye.
President Ginder.
Yes.
Passes 6 ayes, 0 nays.
Under other, motion to approve the release of escrow for completed and withdrawn projects per Deputy Mayor Myers, memo dated January 20th, 2020. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Second.
I'll second.
Comments from the board? Comments from the floor? There being none, Mr. Secretary, please poll the board.
Commissioner Sloniker, aye. Commissioner Marks?
Yes.
Commissioner D?
Aye.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Warren?
Aye.
President Ginder?
Yes.
Motion passes 6 ayes, 0 nays.
Number 2, motion to approve the removal of bad debt. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Comments from the board? Comments from the floor? There being none, Mr. Secretary, please poll the board.
Commissioner Marks?
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner D?
Aye.
Commissioner Warren?
Aye.
Commissioner Sloniker, aye. President Ginder?
Yes.
Motion passes 6 ayes, 0 nays.
Number 3, motion, DCED, letter of intent, fire department assessment.
Do you need additional information at this point, Phil? Or we're, okay. This is a letter of intent to engage DCED to do a assessment of our fire department. It will be submitted at this point along with 4 other municipalities, strengthening the opportunity to get this approved by DCED. It's no cost to the township, and it will be an independent, standalone assessment of our fire department. Keeping in mind the conversations that we had during the budget season this year, we're implementing the changes that the board had offered us. And we are also interested in moving forward to see to what extent we can cooperate within this region. Right now, we've met for the second time with Catasauqua, North Catasauqua, Northampton, and Hanover, Lehigh County. There are others to come. And we are not just submitting this, but we are looking to see new ways that we can interact more effectively to guarantee that we can all save some money on equipment and share what is available to us in terms of manpower. I believe that Chief Nelson had noted recently to you that there were just a few decades ago, and maybe as soon as long as only 1 decade, there were over 300,000 volunteers in Pennsylvania, volunteer firefighters, and now we're down to about 30,000. So we're doing what we can to not only attract more people, but guarantee that we can become more thinking forward than we may have in the past.
Are you going to do that?
Okay, any questions? Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Make a second. Questions from the board? Questions from the floor? There being none, Mr. Secretary, please poll the board.
Commissioner Warren?
Aye.
Commissioner D?
Aye.
Commissioner Marks?
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Sloniker, aye. President Ginder?
Yes.
Motion passes 6 ayes, 0 nays.
Mayor Mike, on our desk tonight was a letter of intent for mutual aid.
Yes.
That's it.
Do you need this,
No.
was that part of what you just went over?
That's
Yes.
what we're talking about,
Why
but
didn't they say mutual aid in it?
there is mutual aid involved in that. I have another
It seemed just,
letter of intent that I thought
that's
you
what I
wanted
was
to see.
referring to.
Let me give this to you.
I have it.
And, oh, okay.
So we don't need a separate motion on this.
No, this is what you're acting on.
Okay. My bad. All right, reports of public officials. Commissioner Jeff.
Okay. Tonight, we're making a significant investment in our public safety with the approval of building our police station emergency services building. I just wanted to mention that the Commonwealth, as part of the governor's budget, is finally getting around to imposing fees on municipalities that rely strictly on state police for their police protection. In those municipalities, state police are responding to retail thefts at convenience stores and things like that. I think it's long overdue. As I could interpret the bill incorrectly, but it appears that one of our largest municipalities who relies heavily on the state police would be assessed $77 per capita. And when you think of how much it costs for us to support our police department, that's one heck of a deal. So I think they should be paying a bigger burden of the cost. But one thing I didn't like is that Whitehall and Copley would be assessed $2 additional to support the state police. And we already carry some of their water when there's an accident on MacArthur Road, on a state road. It's our guys out doing the accident investigation. It's not the state police. So, not on top, we have our own police department to pay for, but now we're gonna be assessed a $2 fee per capita on. So, I thought they should be helping us more, especially with our services building, funding it, and our police, not asking us to contribute to the state police more, especially when they're only asking some municipalities to contribute only $77 per person. That's it.
It's a very good point. Commissioner Fisher.
So the first thing I'd like to do is formally welcome Commissioner D to the board.
Thank you.
I gotta say, as we sat and we interviewed the candidates, there were 8 very impressive people that came up to vie for this job, for this position. And it was not an easy decision. There were a lot of people who have been active in the township, who are active in the township, and who will and want to be active in the township. And to me, that just tells me the interest and the excitement is there for people to become a part of this community. And I think we all need to just reach out to these people and reach out to everyone who wants to be active to make them more a part of the township. I watched the fire department video and I'm impressed. I really am. There are a lot of people who really do care and believe that we can make this township a great place. And it gives me a lot of hope that I know they say there's this volunteer crisis, but I think we as a community can get over it. And especially when I was able to sit back there and see all the people who want to get active in the township, like Commissioner D. I think we can make some progress, and I think we'll be in good shape as we keep moving forward. So that's all I got tonight.
Okay. Mr. Sloniker?
I just want to reiterate what I said previous in the meeting tonight, that at our workshops and at our regular scheduled public meetings, we allow everybody to talk, to bring up questions that are going to be pertinent to what we're going to be voting on. To say that other townships or municipalities don't do that, well, shame on them. But